So welcome everybody and thank you for joining us on this wonderful occasion that we are going to talk about uh, FCRA as well as ERP4Impact that we've been working on. I hope you can all see the screen. So yes, over to Ritu. Since we're already done with introductions, let's begin.
I think this was about us, which I truly believe that Namita did justice in explaining what we are into. We call ourselves a CFO services for the social sector. And we've been doing this over the past 10 years or so. So the focus has been that try to fill in the shoes of an CFO for all the NGOs that we get in touch with and help them not only with accounting or compliance, bookkeeping, but also if there's something to do with strategically figuring out the budgets, forecasting how you can take forward the donor pitch or re-engineering their processes is what we look into, along with any kind of compliances that the social sector needs to look into. We do have a poll question right now, which we'll present. It'll be really nice if everyone can participate and answer this.
You should be able to see the poll question now on your screen. Please begin voting. It is how many of you attending today are either planning to register for FCRA, already registered, or need to apply, or are in the process of getting your renewal at this point. We'll just take 15 more seconds before we close the poll. So if you haven't voted, please vote. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. So as I can see, a fair bit of us are already registered under FCRA, and that's great. Some of us still planning to register. That's great that you're here for knowledge, and we sincerely hope to help you understand everything. One request is that put all your questions in the chat box. Use the chat box only for questions and nothing else. This will help us keep track of all the questions and be able to address it towards right at the end of the session. Yeah, I will be taking all the questions and keeping track of them, and we'll make sure that we address them all at the end of the session.
Great. Okay, we are going to discuss today about the amendments related to the FCRA and its rules. Before we, jump into what were the changes, I think it's very important to understand why the FCRA Act was enabled. Main thing was definitely to regulate how the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution is going to happen with the NGOs. And the other reason why we have all the government authorities keeping a very close eye is to make sure that none of the foreign contributions are used for anything that is going to be detrimental to the national interest. Because it's foreign contribution, we definitely need to know the source of it, from where is it coming, and the reason for why it's coming to India. As far as the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act is concerned, it extends to the whole of India, definitely goes to the citizens of India who are residing outside India, as well as any branches or subsidiaries outside of India, but they are subsidiaries or branches of the companies incorporated in India. Now, foreign contribution is defined as donation, delivery, or transfer made by any kind of a foreign source. These two definitions, the foreign contribution and foreign source, they remain the same. So we are not going to get into defining what they are. But anybody, if have any kind of questions related to it, please, shoot a question in the chat box. An organization can accept foreign contribution only after it obtains a certificate of registration from the central government. And this is the whole reason why it is very important that every organization follows the rules and regulations as directed by this Act in order to maintain this registration as well as continue receiving the foreign contribution. As we are all aware, the amendments to the Act was notified in the official gazette on the 29th of September 2020. So from this date is when all the changes that are being made in the Act are applicable to an organization. And the rules that have come up, they are notified in the official gazette on 10th of November 2020. So it's very important to understand these timelines because few of the laws and the changes, it is important to keep these dates in mind and understand the impact of it. We are going to do a comparison with what the old Act was and if there are certain rules changes. This helps us to understand how important, keeping the mind of change and the impact on your books, if there is any. We do have a poll question coming up now. It's important for us to know, what the audience is thinking about this question.
Okay. Oh, this is somewhat like a test question here before we sort of dive into the rule. What is the current percentage of administrative expenses that are allowable under the FCRA Act? 50% of the amount received in a financial year, 50% of the amount spent in a financial year, 20% of the amount received in a financial year, or 20% of the amount spent in a financial year. So please go ahead and click the answer that you think is the correct answer. We'll have another 15 seconds before we close the poll. 60% of us have answered. Quickly, let's answer so that we can have the results soon. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So 42% of us think that it is 20% of the amount received in the financial year. 34% of us think 20% of the amount spent in a financial year. All right, Ritu, please go ahead and tell us more about this.
Sure. Have you stopped sharing?
Yes.
So this is interesting. I think I'm sure everyone wants to know what's the correct answer here, but the actual way to look at it as per the law, it's on the amount that is being received in the financial year. So as can be seen here, previously it was 50% of the funds received in a financial year, and now they have drastically reduced that to 20%. It is definitely, when from the number point of view, yes, there's a drastic reduction, but I think the aim of the government here was that somehow push all the organizations to focus on their core objects. And the way we define administrative expense is something that we all have to look into it now. I think before, because it was 50%, we never paid that much of attention as to what should be segregated as program expenses or administrative expenses. But now, since the percentage is reduced to 20%, in our opinion and our experience with so many NGOs, the genuine nature of the admin expense normally doesn't extend beyond 20%. So we personally feel it's not going to be an issue that will not be addressed by this calculation. It's only the perspective that we need to understand what comes under admin expenses and what is considered as program expenses. The next change that has taken place is the addition of public servant in the definition of people who are prohibited to receive the foreign contribution. Before that, it was just limited to judge, government servants, or employees of any corporation or any other body controlled or owned by the government. Now, to this definition, they have added public servant. We have, after this change that has come up, we normally have received questions as to whether a public servant can also be a board member, or is that not allowed? It was great that on the FCRA website, in the FAQ section, they had clearly mentioned that the public servants, they can be on the board. And the definition of public servants, it's defined under section 21 of the Indian Penal Code. Next part that comes into is, yes, a huge operational hindrance that, initially was, we all were taken aback that, we have to move our existing designated FCRA account into SPI. So this law basically is now making it mandatory for all the organizations to open a SBI account with the New Delhi main branch. It needs to be done as per the current existing law by 31st of March 2021. We want to explain to you all that before there were just two layers for these bank accounts. It was one, the designated account, and the other was a utilization account. As far as the new law is concerned, we definitely need to have the FCRA account, which is the New Delhi main branch SBI account. And then you can continue to have your designated and utilization account. So as you can see, there are three layers to it. There's no issue of maintaining your existing FCRA account. The only addition is the SBI, which needs to be your first recipient of the foreign contribution. I know there are a lot of processes and SOPs that have come up from the FCRA side, and maybe not all the SBI branches are aware of exactly what method needs to be followed. But from our experience so far with other NGOs, at least the form and the paperwork is going smoothly. Definitely, we're waiting for more opinions and views coming up as to how was their experience with opening the SBI account. But we strongly believe that everyone should focus on opening this account as soon as possible. The next part is talking about renewal of certificate under Section 16. Initially, the central government had no power as such to call for an inquiry when someone was submitting a form for renewal. So it was a very normal, you send across your documents, they will see your compliance bit for the last 5 years, maybe questions around that. But there was no scope given to the central government to allow them to open an inquiry. Now, with the new law under Section 16, we can conduct an inquiry. And when we say that, it basically means that it's the same process as you're applying for the first time, where they will see, who are the people, behind this organization. They want to make sure that although there's no felony or convict or any kind of anything which is a red flag for them when they look at from the first registration point of view, they will continue that for the renewal as well. So this is in addition to the existing act. The next one is the surrender of certificate under Section 14A. This particular section was not, there was no option to surrender at all before. And now it's a new section that has come up. They started a new form known as 7. And this is where an organization gets a chance to surrender their certificate of registration. The catch is that it's not on the date of submission of this form that you think your certificate is surrendered, but it's the date on the acceptance by the CG for this surrender. So we need to keep that in mind. It's not automatic. We'll have to wait for the central government to approve this form.
Yeah, a little bit about this, it's very confusing, as if you're saying that this, that if your certificate is up for renewal every 5 years, and they will also conduct an inquiry. So why would an organization want to go for surrender here versus just not renew at the end of 5 years? So I mean, some of these provisions are a little confusing and make us question as to why this is in place. But I think as slowly things unfold, we will know more about these changes. We will know more as to why they are in place. So I think one of the biggest reasons, at least to our understanding, the surrender of certificate is here, is if you see in the past, the plethora of organizations whose registrations were cancelled, mainly because of either not filing the returns or, even if there were nil returns, there were so many organizations. I think it is to ease the burden on such organizations where, you have the registration, but just because you have the registration doesn't mean you need to continuously keep complying with it. So if you think you're not going to accept any money, you can go ahead and apply for a surrender. How this also makes things easier is that if you have non-compliance year on year, now the compounding and the penal offenses on that are continuously increasing. Your fines can go up to like 1 lakh rupees or even up to the amount of foreign contribution that you have received. So if you feel that, this is not something you want to maintain, surrender is a better option versus waiting for the time that, this is going to come down to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that probably seems to be the logical reason why this option has, come into place. But we'll wait and watch for that. The other change that has taken place is it's under Section 13, which talks about suspension of certificate. In the old provision, the authorities had the time period of up to 180 days to conduct the inquiry and close on whether the certificate, is being suspended or not. This timeline has been extended now to 360 days. So technically, they have almost a year's time to look into an organization and conclude whether they want to suspend their certificate. This definitely is not on a positive side for the NGOs, because when they do conduct a suspension inquiry, they might freeze the bank accounts.
Yeah.
So it gives the authorities that much time longer to conduct the inquiry.
Yeah. I think the way this is being conducted is that, as per the old provisions, you start with a 180-day period of, for under which your suspension has to sort of be lifted. But at the end of it, if supposing there is no resolution and this is still going on, what can happen is that they can extend it another 180 days. So, so again, it's like a provision where it's again like a wait and watch. So if like Ritu said, your operations can be hit for so long, you could actually end up losing so much time and effort that you've put into.
Yeah, they can probably tell you not to accept any more foreign contributions because it's under suspension. But we'll see. Yeah. We do have another poll that's come up now.
Yes. So this is an interesting one, and I think this is the most hated one. So let's go ahead and answer this. Supposing you are an NGO A and you are working with another NGO B who is implementing projects at the grassroots level. You as NGO A, are you allowed to transfer funds to the NGO B from your FCRA account to their FCRA account?
And the question is very long, but it's very important.
Yes, it's very important that we feel that all of you should be able to go ahead and answer this. I'll give it another 15 seconds. Please go ahead and answer.
Yeah, I think we would like full participation of this one.
Yes, definitely. All right, I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. So 8% of us think that yes, you can go ahead and transfer from A to B, whereas 92% of us think that no, we cannot. Again, Ritu, please go ahead and reveal what the truth is to us.
Yeah. So unfortunately or fortunately, like most of the people have answered it correctly, that yes, we cannot transfer now. And why there's a confusion is because in the old provisions of Section 7, the definition had stated that no person shall transfer foreign contribution to any other person unless it is a FC registered NGO or another unregistered NGO with rules and approval as per FC 5 form. Now, what happens is that this definition still remains the same, but they have eliminated all the words after, to any other person. So when I read it now, it simply says no person shall transfer a foreign contribution to any other person. So from the plain, language that they've used here, what we consider, we call it as an inter-charity transfer, or we call it as sub-granting. As per the law and the plain reading of it, it's completely prohibited. It's not allowed. For sure, there's a lot of gray area around this because the intention of receiving the funds and helping few other small, medium-sized organizations which cannot even think right now of getting an FCRA certificate probably. It seems that we won't be able to support them. But we personally believe that the intention is definitely not to cause this kind of issue where the NGOs who are trying to do the good work it's not reaching out to them. But at the same time, maybe because they definitely want more transparency and they're not able to really track from where the fund initiated and where is it landing. I think maybe for that reason, they have stated very clearly that, please do not have any kind of sub-granting. So when you receive a FC, when you receive foreign contribution, make sure you're using it for your end goal or your main objects. And that's where it stops. Do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I think as most of you might already be sort of witnessing it, a lot of donors once now, because this is such a big thing in India, a lot of foreign donors are getting aware. They're getting more stricter on understanding that, are you going to do this work yourself? Are you going to be sub-granting to anybody? Even from a large donor perspective, large fund houses who would actually aggregate a lot of this, lot of these donations, and then sort of have multiple organizations implement this. It's definitely going to hamper all of that work. What it would mean is that, like you said, Ritu, smaller organizations would need to get the registration. They would need to do all the paperwork. They would need to apply for these grants by themselves. They would again need to ensure that they have the reach and the ability to meet the requirements of these larger donors and then be able to get the funds. On the donor end, again, it's also going to be an issue, right? Because instead of giving to one organization who's going to then help you distribute the funds, you will have to deal with multiple organizations as a grantor. This is definitely a challenge, and a lot of people try to become so this is a place where we want to warn everybody. A lot of people are trying to be very innovative here, saying, oh, let's just convert it into a service contract. But that is not the way to do this. Please mind you again, that is not the way to do it. It cannot be that just by changing the nature of something on paper, you change the actual essence of the transaction. You were doing this as a sub-granting activity before, and just by, on paper saying that this is now a service, you're actually inviting a lot more trouble. It is very important that you do it the absolute correct way, which is getting an FCRA registration if you don't have one, applying for the grant yourself and getting it directly from the funder. Because this is an issue throughout the channel, everybody is going to sort of understand and be able to also say that, yeah, we need to now deal directly with the end use organizations, right? So there will, that kind of infrastructure will have to come in place, and hopefully will come in some time.
I think, since this is just the beginning of it, I'm sure technically if there's any other way out, the best source would be for the government to address it instead of finding any other creative, innovative ways which can lead you in trouble. So for now, I think we strongly suggest not to do any kind of sub-granting or inter-charity work, at least as long as there's no further notification from the government. The next key change that has taken place is under Rule 17A. This is something to do with that normally we had to report under Form 6E if there was a change in the number of members which were registered at the time of getting the certificate, or there have been changes over the period, but if it is over 50%. Currently, they expect that any change, so be it even one single member, either resigning or there's an addition, deletion, that whatever reason, if there's a change in the governing body members, they need to notify this as per Form 6E, and it is effective only after the central government gives the approval. So these are add-ons, and definitely operationally, it's a new thing that you need to make sure that you're compliant with. We strongly recommend, to make sure that if there are any changes, then please, fill up your Form 6E and upload it instead of waiting, for another intimation or anything of that sort. This is normally, ideally, the law says within 15 days of any kind of change. So if it was not about over 50% and thought not to do it, we would recommend that please fill up the form and update it on the portal. The next one that's come up is it's all about the applications. Here we have three kinds of processes. One is the registration, the second is the prior permission, and the third is the renewal. We'll go one by one. We're talking about the first part, which is a registration. There they have the form FC3A, which needs to be filled up. The current fees are 10,000 rupees versus 5,000 before, so they have increased it. And the timeline or the NGOs which are eligible to apply for FCRA is basically they need to be at least 3 years in the activity mode. So they've spent some money on the core objects, And also they need to spend 15 lakhs. 15 lakhs, before it was 10 lakhs, but now it's 15 lakhs on its core activity. So that's really important to note. That's about the registration bit. The second is a prior permission. That's under Form FC3B. And the fees for that is 5,000 rupees. We believe previously it was 1,000 rupees. There's no specific timeline, but yeah, sure, there are certain rules and regulations about, if the prior permission is beyond or over 1 crore or something, there are certain ways of getting the installments. That's a new addition to it. The third bit is the renewal. Now here, FC3C is the form that needs to be filled in, and the fees are 5,000 rupees. The new part, that's the add-on that's come up, is the Proforma AA. It's an affidavit that needs to be submitted by each chief functionary or the key members, managing directors, the CEOs, people who have probably been listed on the portal. They need to sign this Proforma AA. And the timeline for this is basically if your registration is expiring on, say, 31st March 2021, so it's the 6 months prior that. So we're looking at the window of 1st October to 31st March. For all these processes, the common things that all the organizations mandatorily need to have with them is the Darpan ID, the Aadhaar information of all the people involved here, and the new SBI bank account. So even if you're thinking of a renewal, you will need to have the SBI account, Aadhaar, and Darpan ID. It's very important to keep these in mind so that if the renewal is coming up, you have these things ready for it. If there are any questions so far, please put them in the chat box. We are coming to the key pointers of from our experience what we believe certain do's and don'ts. And this is coming only from after probably facing few issues by a few of our clients as to things that have helped them from our experience.
So one thing, if Ritu, if you can go back,
Yeah.
I would just want to highlight here. If you see in the renewal process here, the timeline mentioned is 6 months onwards. If any of you are aware, previously it was before the end of 6 months, right? So you would have to finish applying by 1st October. In your example, you said if it's ending on 31st March 21, your timeline for applying would actually end by 1st October. You would have to finish applying by 30th September 2020 to make sure that your application goes through. Your window would close. So now that has changed. It is now that you can only apply after 1st October 2020 if your application is coming to an end on 31st March 21. I think there are still some changes that are happening on the FCRA website. So practically, if you're in the in the process of getting a renewal, you might find that the portal is allowing you to upload it despite you not being the timeline. Yeah. Still, you can, because the portal is open, go ahead, start populating the information, make sure you have an SBI account, the affidavits, the Aadhaar, all of that in, and then, you can go ahead and submit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the key pointers, which I think will be very beneficial, for us to share with you all. I think one of the first point is that the admin expense, you'll have to, keep it to 20% of the contributions received in the financial year. It's very important. It's not the utilization, but the amount that you have received in that year. The second bit is document with supportings the allocations of admin and program costs. Since the percentage is only 20% here right now we're talking about, we strongly believe that if there's a reason why you all think a certain expense is program, keep it documented with your supportings. And when we say supportings, it can definitely be someone's salary or thinking it's directly related to the main objects of the organization. So please document that along with maybe their academic qualifications or credentials, where you feel that this person is purely from a program point of view. And the same reason with the admin as well. Whatever are your reasons, I think the best would be to document it and keep it for your records. In case of any kind of scrutiny or the assessing officers reaching out or questioning this 20%, you all don't need to then worry about why we thought what we thought before. It's always there with you all. The next one is update, as we just said about the change in key members in Form FC6E. Definitely open the SBI by 31st March 2021 and intimate about this opening of a new account in Form FC6C. The central government has extended the time for uploading the annual returns in the FC4. It's right now 30th June 2021. And we personally, and I guess they've stated as well, the reason why for this extension is because, as we stated, the Darpan ID, Aadhaar, and the SBI account, as well as the Performa AA, they all need to be in place, before someone files the annual return. So keep that in mind. These are the things that are needed. We strongly believe that because FCRA, it's all about the foreign contribution that you're receiving. So first end is that you don't mix the funds, and that's possible only when you clearly define, what is a foreign source and what is not a foreign source. So set up the website processes correctly to filter this. Normally, people think that if it is, anything in not Indian rupees, sometimes people assume that it's, foreign contribution, but that is not the deciding factor at all. It's actually the citizenship when it comes to individuals, and for corporates, we need to see where has it been incorporated. Also, the place of residence is not so much of an importance. It is the citizenship and the incorporation. The PIOs and OCIs, they are considered as foreign sources. The reason being that they are the citizens, they're citizens of another country, and that's why they're holding those passports, right? So it doesn't matter if the currency is Indian or the place of they're residing right now in India, but if they're not holding the Indian passport, they are considered as foreign source. Maintain separate books of accounts is a must for FCRA and non-FCRA accounts. And the other key pointer here that we realized over the years is that most of the time people think the MNCs, the big corporations, they fall under foreign source. But the rule basically is that the Indian company, even if they have more than 50% foreign holding, but they are within the FEMA limit, they are not considered as foreign source. So they will be your Indian source, and it doesn't need to go in your FCRA account at all. So these are the few points which we thought that, from our over the years of experience that, we've seen the struggle here, and we thought that we'll bring, into this slide. I know we have a lot of question and answers coming up. Let's maybe quickly look through a few.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of you, have common questions, and, specifically, I know a lot of you have been asking about administrative expenses, about the SBI account. Some of you asked questions on foreign sources. I think let's go ahead and start addressing these questions one by one. I think one question we have here is, can we have a foreign national with a person of Indian origin card to be on the board of trustees or in the managing committee? So if you see, there was or there still is a specific FAQ on the FCRA website which addresses to this, saying that yes, they can be on the managing committee. You have to ensure that there is enough paperwork and reasons given as to why they need to be on the managing committee. So as you are aware, once you add a member, there is a process that the FCRA or the MHA rather follows. They have the Intelligence Bureau that will come, that will do a background search on the person and all of these things. So what happens is that because these persons of Indian origin are probably outside the country, it takes that much longer for an organization, for MHA to validate the person and do a background check, right? So it will just be a longer process, but it is allowed. Even when you are setting up an organization, your composition or the board may have these people, but again, understand it takes a little longer because these people are not in India. So the Intelligence Bureau has to communicate with the Intelligence Bureau of that foreign country and understand more about this person. I hope that answers that question. The next question is, please define foreign source. Great question. This is probably one of the founding principles which help you understand whether what you are getting is foreign source or not, is a foreign contribution or not. So over here, the definition is a little long. Bear with me, and I will try and read what it says, and then maybe we can address it. So foreign source over here has been defined as any government of a foreign country, or a foreign territory or any agency of such foreign government, any international agency again. So there are certain exemptions to organizations like United Nations and the World Bank and the Indian Monetary Fund, etc., which have already been given by the FCRA ministry on their website. A foreign company is also considered a foreign source. A corporation which is not a foreign company is also considered a foreign source. So this would mean like how we have partnerships which are incorporated in India, a similar structure outside of India would also be considered a foreign source. A multinational corporation is also considered as a foreign source. I'm not getting into the details of these because it is kind of complex and goes from one place to the other. A company within the meaning of the Companies Act with more than 50% of its shareholding held either by a foreign government or by citizens of a foreign country or by corporations, etc., etc. But to this, there was a proviso which was added that in the finance bill, that if this is within the FEMA limit, when the shareholding is coming in, they will not be considered foreign source, and this was done retrospectively. So even in the past, if you received money from Indian companies which have their shareholding more than 50%, it would not be considered as a foreign source. Nonetheless, this continues to be a part of the definition because the criteria to ensure this is the limit within FEMA. What you can do as an organization to ensure this is basically take a declaration from the donors asking them to not state specifics as to what the percentage is and all of that, but simply state that they comply with this, right? So then you have on record that the company has stated at the time of giving the donation that they follow the FEMA rules and are within that rule for you to be able to count this as a domestic source and take it into your non-FCR account and not into the FCRA account. The other parts of foreign sources are like, a citizen, a trade union outside, a foreign trust or a foundation which is outside and things like that. I hope this sort of covers the definition in detail. If you have more questions, please type them out. We'll try and address them.
Ravi, I'd just like to interject out here.
Yeah, please.
Right. Hi guys, Dhaval here from danamojo. So while Ravi has given us a very comprehensive list of what constitutes foreign, just to simplify it for you in terms of what are the most common use cases, one is in terms of individuals. So an individual is considered a foreign if he does not have an Indian passport. It is as simple as that, right? So everyone who is a PIO, who is an OCI, continues to be foreign source. Somebody who is NRI is not a foreign source. So as long as they have passport of India, they are not foreign source. That is a very simple explanation from an individual perspective. For a company, yes, it gets a lot more complicated like what Ravi explained. But again, to simplify this, just to put it saying, if more than 50% of the shareholding is foreign, it is foreign, except if more than 50% is allowed by FDI law. So that's the simplistic part of it. But as Ravi stated, some of this is really complex. So you should get that undertaking that he mentioned. That's the best way to safeguard yourself when you're getting money from a foreign company.
Yeah.
Or even an Indian company, which is based in India, but is considered foreign source. So I just wanted to kind of boil it down to those 2 points for everyone.
That helps.
I think I will go ahead and take a follow-up question in between over here. Aparna has a question here saying a foreign donor would normally transfer money into the FCRA account, but due to this amendment, they have transferred money through the Indian company into the domestic account. Do we still need to have still consider this as FCRA donation? Aparna, this is actually a very complex question and you should be very careful here when you are accepting this donation. It would need to be understood, what is the actual nature of the transaction between the foreign company and the Indian company, how the agreement has been structured, please ensure that you also take a declaration, like we mentioned again from them, that this money is from their own earnings and from their own sources and not a pass-through.
Even from the Indian
entity. From the Indian entity and not from the foreign entity, because this can otherwise have a lot of implications for your organization. Please ensure that you take a declaration to that extent.
Maybe we can pick up some.
Yeah. So Nirmala says, how do we get a corporate donor to give such an explicit undertaking? So an explicit undertaking ideally is when they are specifying what their shareholding percentages are, who holds it, etc. If they can just give you based on the law that whether we comply with this or no, it will go a long way.
We have a tendency of just creating, like normally we tell our clients, NGOs, to create a very simple institutional form, which basically states few lines, which we need to make sure that they're confirming that they're within the FEMA limits, or they are an FCRA foreign source. So it's ideal that if the client versus like the NGO can send out a declaration that can you please sign this, and we do have formats for it. So if at all anybody like needs it, you can reach out to us.
Yeah, we can help you with the formats very easily. Let's move on to the next question. Can you please elaborate on? Can you please elaborate on what constitutes administrative expenses? This definition is again a really long definition and actually does cover a lot of things. But what we can do here is actually address the proviso. So that people, or rather the exemptions or the exceptions, so that people can understand this in better light.
I think there's definitely a little bit of gray area in terms of what's a definite, a definition for administrative expenses. But one of the exceptions that they have here in for administrative expenses, it's down, I think, below. We're just trying to get the main act.
Okay, in the meanwhile, what we can do is I can just walk through some of these questions, because I think some of them have been answered by y'all, and I can address it to y'all to answer them.
Sure.
So what is the effective date of this change from 50% to 20%? That's from the date in which the act went.
That's 29 September.
29 September. We'll answer the question on administrative expense. I think there are a few questions on whether government officials can be on the board of trustees, and retired government officials can be on the board or a trustee of an NGO. Would be great if you all can answer that.
So yes, there is no issue in them being on the board. This has again specifically been addressed in the FAQs on the ministry website. You can check question number 9 in the executive committee section over there in the FAQs. You'll find them specifically stating that there is no issue with even public servants being on the board or retired personnel being on the board.
Wow, that's fantastic, Ravi, that you know the question number on the FAQs.
So this is one of the most asked questions, and which is why.
Yeah. No, we are right. So the FAQs are really great, guys. On the FCRA side, would urge everyone to take that and go through it, written in simple language, answers a lot of questions as well. Right. Yeah.
So coming back to the administrative expenses, while they cover salaries, wages, remuneration to members of the executive committee, they cover.
They have defined all of this in the administrative expenses, including like the legal, professional charges, cost of writing, filing reports. But they do have two broad exceptions here, and which is what I think is a relief for most of us. The first exception is that provided that the expenditure incurred on salaries or remuneration of personnel engaged in training or for collection or analysis of field data of an association primarily engaged in research or training shall not be counted towards administrative expenses. That's first exception. And the second, which is more broad, is provided further that the expenses incurred directly in furtherance of the stated objectives of the welfare-oriented organization shall be excluded from the administrative expenses, such as salaries to doctors of hospitals, salaries to teachers of school, etc. This is where we feel that if you all strongly believe that a certain expense is extremely and directly related to the main objects of your organization, you all should definitely document it for the reasons why you believe so, which includes the person's profession or the person's academic qualification or the experience that they come with, and state that these are the reasons why we strongly believe that they are program expenses and not administrative expenses. So, I mean, because of the exceptions, it's important to document. It's not a very straightforward yes or no situation.
Yeah, so what you would ideally do is go through your budget line items, prepare a working sheet as to what, as per FCRA, qualifies as admin or what qualifies as program. And against those, also put down your notes, put down why this is being not considered as program, although as per the definition it is. Right? This would ensure that you have a line by line working for all your budgets, and when you're going to be spending the money, you know where it is, whether it is admin or program or not. So again, here qualification, whether that person is capable of implementing that program, all of those things come into the picture. So it's important that you keep in mind the exception and then sort of take that decision.
Ravi, I think there's one question which is saying that while the Act has come into place on 29th, does the 20% apply from 29th onwards, or does it apply for the full financial year? So what's your view on it? And it seems that, so it just would be great to get your view on it.
Yeah, I was just seeing that chat happening everywhere. So I think while, the government has been silent on this, it is again a googly that has come from the government, right? It is very difficult to say that how you can mathematically answer this question. Is it 20% of the amount for the whole year? Is it 20% of the amount received after after 29 September? So, what we are asking organizations, or at least the ones that we're working with, highly recommending that one, you do a calculation now so that you know what your percentage will be at the end of the year. Have your documentation and papers in place so that you can also support why the percentage is what. In case it is going over 20%, you write to the MHA on the using the email addresses that they've given, saying that, hey, look, this is what this is, and this expense happened before the Act came in, or the amendment rather came in on 29th. Please help us with clarification as to how do we proceed before the end of the financial year. The other thing that you can also do is, because this is also going to affect you much later, by then you will have some clarity, start looking at how you can make some of these expenses from your domestic account go back to your donors, understand how there is room for them to sort of accommodate these requests, because this is a change in law. This is not something you as an organization want to do, but because this is a change in law.
Yeah, but I think, Dhaval, I feel like most of the organizations first they really definitely need to calculate this percentage, because, maybe because right now the assumption is that it's definitely about 20%. But when they sit and do their calculations for the admin expenses, there's a strong possibility that they're very close to 20%. So they need not worry about this. So,
right. So I think what I would probably tell this audience is that the way you could look at it is ensuring that you can use up to 50% of the funds received till 28th September, and from 29th September to 31st March, you should calculate it at 20%. And then whatever that number comes to you, that's the number probably you want to, is what you can safely use for administrative expense from a logical standpoint. The government's not yet come back on that.
Logically, yes, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
There's another question on any solutions for prohibition of subgranting. I think that's already answered by Ravi. Please don't try anything weird. Go by the law. There have been cases of organizations that have tried something, and the government has actually come down on it very, very strongly. So I think you got to remain within the spirit of it versus the letter of it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to just go down and say, look at some other questions where
I think somebody was asking what is the FEMA limit, to please elaborate. There are specific limits, that the RBI sort of gives out every now and then. These keep changing per each sector that the organization who's giving you donations are registered as: technology, retail, infrastructure, etc. So this would change based on who is giving you the donation. It's available online with the RBI. You can find it there. It would be difficult.
Are all there's another question about whether executive members of a society have to file affidavit.
Yes.
The members, yes.
Yes. So if you see over there in with the pro forma itself, in the pro forma itself, it says every member, who is sort of in charge of or a part of the governing body has to file this affidavit. It comes under that that bit.
Okay.
Chief functionary, the person, the managing director, office bearers. So they would eventually be office bearers because they are executive members, right? Or key functionaries in this case.
There's another question which says, can we utilize the funds remaining with existing utilization accounts till 31st October, which is the expiry of our FCRA registration? Yes, you can utilize them from your current thing. There is no bar on that.
Yeah.
But if you're getting new donations, you have to get them in the SBI account effective from 1st April.
Perfect.
To open the SBI account, you have to get fresh money into it. You don't need to take the money from your existing FCRA account and put back into it. That's not required.
Yeah, the SBI it should be a zero balance account. They know the process. They will not ask you to put an opening check or do anything of that sort. This will start as a zero balance account.
Yeah, so the question Shifra has is actually very interesting. She says, once we open the SBI account, do we need to shift money from our existing FCRA account to the SBI account, or what needs to be done?
No.
So the answer out here, I would say, is you don't need to shift, but you need to classify this as a FCRA utilization account.
Automatically the designated account, so no more the FCRA account will be the first designated account as per the previous law. Now they will simply state the SBI as the first account, which is the FCRA account. And then you have the different layers, the designated and utilization. So no movement is needed.
Right.
Yeah, it's only for receiving. You do not need to move money back to it.
Somebody has a question. How many trustees should be in the board to apply for FCRA?
So there is no specific requirement as such. This is defined by your trust deed or the act that you're registered under. You need to comply with at least that minimum requirement to apply. We have seen organizations with 2 or 3 as well getting the certificate, so there is no issue.
And can doctors in government hospital be on the board?
Yes, we answered that, saying that if they are qualified as a public servant, they can be on the board, which is again in the FCRA FAQs that already has been given by the website. Somebody asked here, what did you mean by the website process when talking about having that clear on your website? We were pointing to when you are accepting donations on your website, you need to ensure you are asking for the individual's identity, whether they are a foreign donor or they are a Indian passport holder. That is what we meant. There should be a clear flow for that to happen. I think we are very tight on time. So what we can do is sort of take a pause here for the Q&A, go to the next segment, which is ERP4Impact. Do that and then come back to these questions, as I'm sure, otherwise we would just go on and on.
Yeah, let's do that. And in the meanwhile, what we'll do is we'll also just sift through these questions and kind of put up the questions which are more relevant, and then I can address them to you at the end of that session.
Yeah, thanks, Naval. That will help.
Yeah, great, guys. Let's continue with, they're going to talk about ERP4Impact, which is a donation management solution.
Yes. So I hope that all of you sort of enjoyed or, were able to learn from the session that Ritu so passionately spoke about when it comes to FCRA. I'm sure that, you have more questions and we'll address them at the end. But let's move on to one thing that is common to everybody over here, which is donations, right? Each organization has a lifeblood and, sort of something which is the mode of survival and required for their sustenance is basically all the money that comes into you, that is donations. That's what we've been talking about for so long, right? And what is really, really important is understanding basically how do you manage these donors, how do you manage these donations. And this is a very, very important task next only to sort of being able to handle your impact and your beneficiaries, right? If you do not manage your donations, or if you do not communicate with the donors, you end up losing them, you end up sort of suffering all of that. And most NGOs currently face, basically a challenge in being able to manage these donations for a lot of reasons. So let's quickly sort of take a poll here before we sort of jump into what is, ERP4Impact and what are we doing, etc. So the poll question here is, what is the major source of funding for your organization currently? Is it individuals or retails, foundations, corporations, or events that you sort of hold to get fundraising for? It'll be great if you guys can go and answer. I will keep this contextual so that I can answer more from that perspective when I'm looking at ERP4Impact and as a donations management platform. So I think 50% of the people have answered. We'll give it another 10 seconds or so. Go ahead, guys, tell us what are the major sources of funding you have. Is it individuals, foundations, corporations, or any events that you guys have been doing? All right, I will end the poll question here. And so it looks like most of us are basically, have corporations and CSRs giving us money. A big chunk of us also have individuals and foundations sort of giving money to us. So that's great, and with all of this comes, a lot of issues in being able to sort of handle all of that. Let's look at some of the problems that we have. Lack of fundraising analytics. So when the money comes in, where is it coming in from? Who is it from? When did it come in? How are my campaigns going? How do I need to basically ensure that my campaigns are doing well or no? Has a particular donor given all the tranches that they were supposed to give or no? You do not have access to this information at your fingertips. You always have to struggle to go back to your accounting department and ask them questions, and they take their own time to get back to it. There's always a lot of delayed donor communication. So when the money comes in, a small thank you note with a quick acknowledgement, immediately goes a long way. But what we've seen in our experience is organizations take a little bit of time. Sometimes the manual process of, going through the whole flow, then getting a confirmation, okay, this money has come in, ends up losing some time. You also see a lot of redundancy and multiple data sources that have been maintained, or, basically the data is unorganized. Saying how many individual donors are there, how many corporate donors are there. And because sometimes you have multiple people maintaining this, you have multiple Excel sheets or multiple sources where you have this information. And that again poses a problem because it's not very easy to analyze that information and make sense out of it. You have a manual receipting process. So for your ATGs, you go to a physical book, you rely on somebody who's sitting in an office, will look at the data and then sort of come back to you. Especially, in a scenario like COVID now, this has posed a lot of problems for organizations where, when you receive donations highly, for a lot of work that you're doing on the field, people weren't getting back the confirmation of the money that they sent. How can this process actually be automated and be made online? Accounting and statutory compliances with respect to all of this money. ATG receipts, giving all of those out. What is the limit? How much cash can you accept per donation? How much cash can you accept for an ATG receipt? FCRA compliances, what do you report in each quarter? All of these things, right? What if all of this was in one process? Today it poses a lot of issues. And if somebody wanted to solve all of this as well, you come across solutions which exist, but they are from outside of India. They are complex. They are expensive to put in. Some of these cost between $5,000 to $20,000 a year just to have and maintain. On top of that, you add the requirement of hosting that solution, having a technology team, customizing it, it adds to a lot of burden on the organization where they actually need to focus on impact but are not able to. Before we sort of go into the ERP4Impact bit of it, let's understand one more question that we have for you guys is that how many of these problems do all of you face, right? Do you face all these problems, most of these problems, some of these problems, or none of these problems? So the problems that we spoke about, lack of fundraising analytics, manual receipting, limiting there's a lot of data redundancy, manual process of receipting, compliances, not getting all the reports back on time.
I think the real-time data.
Yeah, the real-time data processing, all of those things. So I see quite a few have answered. We'll give it another quick 10 seconds before we move ahead. All right, we will end the polling question here now, and I share the results. So most of you said you face some of these issues, and a big chunk of you actually said all of these or most of these issues, right? There's actually just one person who said none of these issues. That's great. That's great. I think we hope to learn from you more about this once the session ends. So let's see what the solution is and how do we sort of move forward from here, right? So we have, from our experience, of like almost 10 years in this sector, we've been working on with so many organizations trying to help them organize this information, make the most out of it. We realized that technology can actually play a big part in being able to help organizations solve for this. So we got down to creating something for our own, which is like a plug and play for organizations, which is a low cost intervention for organizations, something where everybody can be on the same page, and sort of work at the same time in the organization. And this is so. I think I will just need to reshare my screen. Just 1 second here. Yeah, so you should be able to see it now, and this is what the interface looks like. This is a web-based portal, so you can access it from anywhere you are. You just need like a web browser and access to internet to be able to access it. There are a lot of working modules, but what I will immediately sort of talk about and show you is the ability for you to do a lot of analysis and have data at your fingertips. So as you can see, you get access to an organizational dashboard, which is highly customizable, and you can see a lot of slices of basically a trend line of how your money has been coming in the past, where in the world your money has been coming in from, whether it's the US, India, etc. What percentage of your money is basically FCRA, non-FCRA. You can also see what kind of, or rather what type of donors have been donating the most to you. So for the purpose of this dummy data that we have, sort of demo data that we have here, we see that CSR and retail form the biggest chunk, 50%, almost 48% and 35% of the donations that have come to this organization. You also have the ability to then see what purpose the money has come in for. So as you can see over here, the major purpose is helping underprivileged kids, which is 24%, general donations about 21%, and nutrition and children support. Now, how this data helps you is that it's highly filterable and gives you enough information quickly. So let's say you wanted to understand how your retail donations have been doing. All you have to do is come here, click on retail donations, and all the information that you have here, you see, customizes itself and changes to that. So now I can immediately see that Ahan Jain is the top donor for me in retail donations over this whole period that I have. So starting from December to date, and I can see that for retail donations, my purposes have also changed. So, from earlier, it was something else, and now nutrition is actually one of the biggest donations. Let's say I wanted to understand my nutrition support better. All I had to do was click on nutrition. So now I have two levels of filter. One is the retail and one is the nutrition level support. And I can immediately see that for nutrition, Vihan Bagaria is actually the highest donor. So what this does is gives you instant access to data and information. And when you want to take action, you can immediately spring into it. So like you can understand for nutrition, your money has been coming in like this. So, you can draw inferences very quickly, like, okay, this is where COVID hit and we sort of gave a big push to our program, and which is why most amount of the money for nutrition came in March, right? You can understand what's working, what's not, and take actions accordingly. What is also really amazing about this is that, we have multiple dashboards for you to look at. So while this dashboard is one, which gives you an organization-wide information, we have a donor history dashboard, which actually helps you understand each particular donor's history with you, right? So in an organization where you have multiple donors, like 500,000, it's not possible for you as a founder or as a mid-level manager to keep track of every person's history with you. You can quickly, simply just, find that person here. Let's say I find Ravi Bagaria and filter that here. And you get access to their total footprint, what their contact details are, what their receipt numbers are, when did they make donations to you, what is the highest amount of contribution they've given. So you can see that 70% of their donations are towards general donations and the rest are towards nutrition. So when you're having conversations, you can keep them contextual, saying, hey, you gave for general donations or you gave for nutrition at this point. We are running a campaign again. Would you like to give again? You can also see any future commitments that they have coming up. If they promise to give you money every month or every quarter, you can keep track of that as well. That, out of a pledge made of 18,000, only 2,500 has been received. And out of another pledge of 60,000, only 10,000 has been received. So, you can go back to them and follow up and do all of those things. Quickly moving on to another dashboard that we have, which is sort of the...
this focuses on the statutory compliance, where we need to make sure that certain information is there for the donor.
Yeah. So as the rules have changed, you might be aware from the next financial year, you would have to upload basically a donations table to the income tax department, giving them access and information about who your donors are and basically what they've been giving you money towards. So this table actually collates all of that information for you and preempts it. You can simply filter the data here and understand which of the donations are a flag and PAN is not available and you need to go out and get it. So over here, two things can happen. One, you can immediately get in touch with the donor and say, hey, we need your PAN for you to be able to take advantage of the ATG. Or two, if you know that this is not going to come in, you can close it and sort of move forward accordingly in that manner. All of this data is downloadable either as a PDF or as a CS3 or as an Excel, however you need it to further process it or upload it to somebody else. We also have an FCRA report, which is nothing but the quarterly report that you would otherwise struggle at the end of each quarter to, to collate. You can immediately see till date, from the start of the quarter, what your donations look like, who are they from, what is the purpose that you can very easily just change the quarter here and say the last quarter is what you want to look at, apply it, and you can see the information for the last quarter. One of the requirements under FCRA is to also have this information available on your website, right? You could simply just PDF this information and upload it onto your website. It would be that simple. Otherwise, so many of us struggle with just complying with that and making sure this information is on the website. Now that we've covered this part, let's look at some of the operational aspects of this very quickly. So we have basically a screen here which helps you keep track of all your donors. You can create the donor individually as they come, so they become an institutional knowledge, right? So whether people change or things change, you will have access to that information. It will not go away anywhere. And as soon as those donors are created, you can start adding donations. You can see that each donor is sort of maintained here centrally, and each donation is maintained here along with sort of basically an ATG receipt that is created for them. You can see what purpose they've given the money for, etc. We have an amazing feature here which actually helps you communicate with the donor. You can click on email receipt, and supposing once your donation has been accepted, you can just click on send email, and your donor actually gets the email along with the attachment of the ATG and a thank you letter. So the whole process of capturing the donation, adding the donation, making a manual receipt goes away, and you can immediately send the information to them.
I mean, we realize that other than email, there's an option to WhatsApp the receipt as well.
Yeah. So, if supposing, you want to get in touch, they do not have email, or you find it easier, all you need to do is click on WhatsApp chat. And if you have a WhatsApp web account linked to your chat, all you need to do is click on this, and it will sort of create a message for you to send to the donor, irrespective of whether you have the number stored or not. And all you need to do is press enter over there, and the message sort of goes to the donor. And all you need to do is press enter, and you see that the donor can download this information onto their cell phone directly. You can even download a PDF receipt, which you should be able to see here. So, the whole process of printing a receipt, sending it out also is automated. You don't have to rely on your accountant or anybody to sort of do this process. If it's an emergency or an important donor, you can immediately have this at your fingertips and send it to the donor. We also have sort of features for you to be able to track all your grants in one place, right? You have multiple large donors giving you multiple sums of money. You can very easily keep track of what their commitments are towards, what is the start and the end date of the MOU that you're signing, what are the multiple grant line items that come in. You can keep track of all the disbursement dates. You can, we are working on getting you a calendar view of this. You can also see a projected cash flow of when this money is due to you. You can immediately sort of start seeing when and what kind of reports are due for this particular MOU.
It's all in one place.
Yeah, exactly. And what it does is that gives the management and whoever is in charge of the grants a single place to understand the status of each of their grants. No need to go back to your MOUs, go back to your communications and figure out where each grant is at. You can immediately see that from this particular donor, out of 50 lakhs, which is a grant amount, 7.5 lakhs has come in. I still need to get the rest of it. If a particular grant is closed, you can see that it is closed, and you need to not worry about that as well. A key feature that we have here is basically pledges. So, if you have organizations who are, or people rather, who are promising money on a monthly level, saying, I will give you 10,000 every month, I will give you 5,000 every month, or 500 every month, there is so much effort that an organization has to take to, do the whole receivables management. Keep track of whether that money came in, whether donation receipts were given out to that individual, all of those things, right? So this system actually takes care of that. You can very quickly sort of see over here, what that person has promised, when does the promise start, how many donations have come in against that, how much do you need to still follow up on, and immediately sort of over here, you can then see any amount that is over or under in that thing. So if you see all the positives here are excess amounts that are received, and amounts that are negative have been received here as well. What is also very astonishing, and what some of our users have been able to do, is use this to collect money from beneficiaries. So let's say you have beneficiaries who are giving you very small amounts every month. You could use the system to track whether you have received that 50 rupees, 10 rupees towards your programs from beneficiaries. It takes away the pain of maintaining that information and managing it. One of the key features that I would like to announce here that we just sort of completed yesterday is being able to automate, or rather bring in danamojo information from the website onto the platform seamlessly using a CSV upload. If we still have time, I will quickly take you through that process. What happens is, let's say you have a sign in here. All you need to do is sort of basically go to your danamojo login. Right, you will have this whole in front of you. Go on to the donations tab, and you will simply be able to see over here something called download CSV. Either it is you filter it for a period or all of it. All you need to do is click on download CSV.
Sorry, I think we are not able to see. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think my screen is not shared.
Are you able to see now?
Can you guys see it now?
Not yet. Yeah, the screen is not refreshed, Ravi. It still stays.
Yeah. What about now?
Yes, now.
Is
Yes.
better? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So right, you have access to this danamojo section. You click on donations and download the CSV onto your desktop. I already have this downloaded here. Let's go ahead and save it. All you need to now do is basically come to ERP4Impact. I think I need to change the screen again. Yeah, all you need to do is come to ERP4Impact, come to this import donations, choose the file that you are looking at to import all the donations wherever you have saved it. Right, and all you need to do is say import CSV. And you will immediately sort of see that all the donations, so 270 new donors and 309 new donations have been added. So if you see over here, immediately all the donors that were a part of danamojo are here. You can now start communicating with them, sending them receipts, sending them WhatsApp messages for your future campaigns, getting in touch with them. Yes, right. Sorry, one thing that I want to really quickly cover is we have the ability for you to move all of your information from here to Tally. So you can say bye-bye to manual Tally entries. All your donations can move from here to Tally in a quick two-step process. I will not take time to sort of elaborate on that right now. I think
it saves a lot of time, even from any other payment gateways, and also the information,
if we also have one of our existing users among everybody here, can you please give Jyotika permission to speak over here? I will sort of. Jyotika, hi. Can you share your experience as a user about ERP4Impact with the rest of our listeners here?
Yes. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Hi everyone, I'm Jyotika. I'm CEO of the trust called Srujana. We have been using this ERP system for the past couple of months now, and let me tell you, it is fantastic. So it looks very complex. When Ravi was explaining, I was making mental notes. When they showed this for the first time, Ritu and Ravi, that we thought we will never be able to use this complex software, but it was like transitioning from a button mobile phone to a smartphone, and once we are on the smartphone, it has been fabulous. So the challenges that Ravi and Ritu shared in the start were exactly the challenges that we were facing. we had more than 200 unique donors, retail donors, individual, which we wanted to get the data at one place. We also had a lot of, we recently had FCRA last year. So we wanted to maintain data for FCRA donations, as well as we wanted to maintain data for our corporate donors and the pledges, etc., etc. So we had multiple sheets.
Sorry, I think we lost Jyotika there.
Yes. So we had multiple donor database at different places. For example, we had Google Sheets, we had manual receipts that were being printed, and we had different things that were there all over the place. What this software basically gives me is everything at one platform. Sorry, I don't know how I keep getting muted. So this platform gives me the flexibility of having everything at one platform. One click on the dashboard, and as you perfectly explain, everything is at one go. So now I know which are my retail donors, where they are located exactly in which countries, what is the proportion of my FCRA, what is the proportion of my individual donors and the corporate donors. And as an NGO, I've faced this question multiple times on multiple platforms, that corporate asks you what are the different ways in which, like what is the distribution of the donation that you receive. And that has been one of the challenge that we face. And this gives me exact, whenever I'm now talking to a corporate, I'm very confident of the percentages that are there. So that is the flexibility that is given. Secondly, I would give one simple example. So the person in our team who was maintaining the entire ERP system went on a maternity leave, and that was a havoc for us. Okay, now who will maintain this complex structure that has been created and we are using? But she had explained it to the junior most administrative person that these are the 5 steps you need to follow. You need to enter the name, you need to enter the PAN number, the address, and you need to enter the amount of the individual donor or the corporate donor. Trust me, she did that, and we were able to download receipt in like 15 minutes time. Again, one donor came after like 2 months and said, hey, you know, I had donated, but I never got the receipt, or I lost my receipt. It took me literally 15 minutes to just go to the donation, type in the name of the donor and get the receipt, download the receipt and email it to them. So it is that simple and quick and on my fingertips. And being the CEO, often I had to go back to the manual receipt, ask my administrative person to find out through the different 5 books that we have throughout the year and get me the exact donation receipt. But this completely removes all those hassles. Some of the features that I typically like is one that was explained in the last, you guys didn't have time to do it in detail, is exporting it to Tally. So imagine entering it in Excel sheets or in donation receipt, then having those enter into your Tally. Human errors are really high. This way, all your data is at one place, and even simplest of errors are pointed out. So when we were trying to transfer it to Tally, if there is any error, it would actually pop up. Even downloading the receipt, if there was any error in terms of we used any wrong semicolon or any slash during entering of the name, it was pointed out. So we could immediately go back to Ravi and say, hey, we cannot download the receipt. Can you help us? And he said, hey, you have to put the name correct, and we could download it very easily. So such kind of errors which are happening in the human day-to-day and which are very natural can all be eliminated. And this system will provide you with all the, I would say, simplicity and at the same time flexible data collection, management and exporting to the Tally. So yes, we are very happy with it. I do not want to take much time and would rather give you guys time to answer the questions.
Thank you, Jyotika, so much.
I think in the chat box, a couple of people have been asking about restrictions on the number of users and transactions. No, there are no restrictions on the number of users or on transactions anywhere.
This can be used on a smartphone.
Yes, this can be used on a smartphone as well. The orientation is a little different. If we had the time, I would show you here how it looks like, but not right now. Some people have been asking about the data security. Each one of you get your own separate server. All those servers are compliant with all the required security measures that are being prescribed. And each one of them are encrypted with like a 1600-digit password, which nobody else can get access to and things like that. Your donor data is absolutely secure. only you have access to it, and us in terms of being able to maintain and help you with some of the information. That's how this has been set up. You can control who has access to your system from the list of admin support that is available over here. You can also have access to audit logs, etc. I will quickly sort of move to the presentation again, as I have just one more thing to ask. No, there is no server downtime, as these are maintained by DigitalOcean and Amazon, etc. So you technically have this available at any time you want. I quickly have a poll question here for all our users, and it would be great if you guys can answer. Is one, what do you think about the system, and would you like to sort of use this system at this point? Please go ahead and answer this. And what I will do is I will paste a link basically for you to be able to go ahead and fill a form so that we can reach out to you and basically then share what we have created, help you with probably a more detailed demo or even like a use case for your organization, and help you with a demo login so that you can experiment with the system at any time that you like. So I can see great number of people saying yes, they want to use this software. What I have done over here is in the chat box right now, I have basically a link that you can use to sort of give us or reach out to us and say that this is your information and you're interested, and we will reach back to you as well. So please do sort of reach out to us, and we will sort of help you get on board as well to be able to look at this. So I think we have some time, but if you guys also want to sort of come back to the Q&A bit, we would love to as well. Dhawal, do you think we have time to address some of the Q&A from FCRA? Or if anybody has questions on the ERP as well, we can talk about them.
So I have just identified a few questions from the chat, which we could take up, and then we could open the floor up. If some people have expressed, to ask questions verbally, so we'll open up the floor to that as well. So there are a lot of specific questions on admin expenses. What qualifies and what doesn't qualify. We will not take that just now, because that can, those are very specific, and I'm sure if you all can, I think they'll have to be taken up with your auditor and chartered accountant. But so we'll try and take up more generic questions. There's a question: if we had submitted annual report in August, do we require to submit it again? No, you don't need to submit it again. If whatever is the law is come into effect from 29 September. Everything changes post that, not before that. Ravi and Ritu, question for you. So land property is Indian money, but rent is given to an FC institution. They pay rent. Is that FC income or not? Sorry, land is what? So they have bought the land using Indian money. Yeah. But it has been rented out to an FC institution. So okay, whether that FC is that rent FC income or Indian income is the question. No, I think it is the transaction as to where somebody is paying from is not really, the question here.
I think the point is that so if the FC institution is paying the money out of the foreign contribution, but if that is a direct impact of their objects, it's not considered as of FCRA amount, because you're spending it on Indian. Again, it's very technical, because we need to understand the one who's receiving the rent amount is also FC registered or not. And plus, with the no sub-granting question, this cannot be a straightforward yes or no. Right. So yes, I think some of these are quite technical, and I think each has to have more background. Yeah, to be able to answer one-on-one, and
our information will be in the presentation once you do get access to it.
Yeah.
You can reach out to us and we'll be happy to.
Yeah, if there's a particular question that you
Yeah.
want us to look at, we can.
If you all can also share your contact details to the chat window, then I think it will be useful.
I think you can reach out to us over here. I think people can.
So everyone, those are the contact details for Ravi and Ritu. Please write to them and they can answer more specific questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another question which says, can a member of a child welfare corporation or other organization where government is paying sitting fees be on the board of FC organization?
Again, there's no restriction based on the FAQs answered on the FCRA portal that they cannot be on the board. So they can be on the board.
Okay. There's a question, should we utilize the funds that we have already received after the expiry of our FCRA certificate? So the money was received before it expired. Can it be utilized after it's expired?
No, there is a strict instruction on this that if your certificate is considered expired, you cannot go ahead and utilize the money that is in your bank account. You can neither receive nor spend any more money from your FC account. In all probabilities, your bank will already automatically on its own freeze your account. But in case that has not happened, please do not go ahead and spend, because that will lead to a lot of penal provisions and compounding offenses where you could actually end up paying the same amount as penalty as you are actually going ahead and spending.
Yeah, the case to apply for renewal as soon as the window is open.
Yeah, and in case the renewal doesn't come in, please wait for communication and understanding from the department and only then go ahead and spend your money.
Okay, the other question is, okay, somebody is asking, SBI is saying they will deduct 2,000 rupees for every Indian transfer. What should we do? So the simple answer to this is not there under any law or act.
Yeah.
So you should ask them for a notification saying on what basis they are deducting.
Yes, in fact, yeah.
In fact, the SOP given by the government clearly states that there will be no transaction charges charged by SBI. So they can probably present that SOP, to the bank branch and inform them that they're not supposed to and give reasons for why they're doing that.
So there will just be sort of like a Forex rate that will be prescribed and that will be used. I understand this is for an Indian donor, but just for context more.
Yeah.
Okay, there is one NGO saying they've had a change in trustee because one trustee died 3 years ago and they have not informed the FCRA about it. What should they do now? Yeah,
ideally file the form. It's just better because right now even one person changing the designation, they need to inform. So we would advise them to file the form.
So I think that the point really is that if you have made a mistake, correct it immediately.
Yes.
And then you may have to pay some penalty or something, but that will be.
Yeah. So earlier, even if this change was not considered 50%, you could have gotten away with it. But now, because the rules have changed, and your case will be considered as a single change, and that would attract you to filing the form. Then you have to do it immediately.
Okay. Okay, and I think there's one last question we'll take from the chat. So is fundraising expense a program expense or an admin expense?
I wish there was a nice answer to this, but we follow a conservative approach here because fundraising, it's very difficult to put it directly as a main object. So we consider it as admin expense.
Great. So I think we can now open up the floor to questions that people have and would prefer to ask in person.
Yeah, just Dhaval, I think there are two questions on ERP that I would like to take before we do that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody asked, does ERP support complete bookkeeping and prepare financial statements ready enough for RC filing? No, ERP is not a bookkeeping solution. It is a solution that helps you manage donors, donations, all of those things. It helps you move entries from here to Tally. So currently Tally will still be your backbone, which does all the accounting for you. The second question is, would like to know more about ERP and if only donor management from FC. Can we add local donations and get separate report? Yes, you can get separate reports, whether they're FC, non-FC, in whichever other format that you need. It also takes care of bookkeeping in two separate, in two separate books of accounts. So if you have a FC set of books and a non-FC set of books, it separates the entries and puts it into the right account for you. I think Dhaval, now we can open the floor to questions.
So Ravi, there are a lot of questions on what is the cost of this software. Would you like to address that in some way?
So currently we have 5,000 a month as a monthly subscription model that we are following. However, we do have annual plans and plans based on organizations that are happening.
Great, great. Okay, I'll just answer one question before we open up. So which SBI branches in Mumbai help with FCRA?
Yeah.
All SBI branches which deal with foreign exchange and foreign currency are typically the ones which are accepting the applications for opening a new bank account. With this, we can go to voice questions. If anyone has a question, please ask for your mic to be unmuted or raise your hand so we can see you, and Namita can unmute you in that case.
It'll be great to hear some of your feedback, questions, and talk to you about your experience or what you're facing as well with FCRA right now. We'd be happy to, address anything that you have for us as well.
Yeah, Ravi and Ritu, I have a question. I'm Rajiv Bhalla, I'm from Haridwar, and we are running an orphanage. My question is specifically of the administrative.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, so we are running an orphanage in Haridwar, and a large part of our expenses are met with foreign donations. You mentioned about maintaining specific details about employees and their qualifications, etc., while segregating the salary expenses.
Yes.
This is as far as the administrative and program expenses are concerned.
Right.
But you see, if you look at a typical orphanage, we'll have, ladies looking after babies. We'll have people cooking for the children. We'll have people bathing them, doing their, general day-to-day activity. Of course, we'll have people like teachers and psychologists and all also. One of the challenges which we are thinking we will face is that actually a large part of our cost is basically administrative expense, in the sense, if we were to take all these salaries as administrative, we would be far beyond 20%, and it would be very difficult to manage. So is there any provision by, because I cannot take qualification of a cook or, someone who's looking after the babies. We have almost 40 such people in our organization. So how would we manage this kind of a scenario?
Yeah, so there is a provision in the law which actually allows you to write to the MHA in advance, stating by how much your provision will cross the 20%. You write to them. This will have to be a yearly process because it will be a yearly acceptance that they give you. And you write to them and get permissions to be able to spend over 20% in advance, right? So this solves the problem of, then you can give them a budget saying, these are all our expenses. State that, these are in line with the projects, programs, but still, because the rule is this, we think we would need to get permission from you. Make that case and be able to, then move forward once you get their go ahead. I think that is a much cleaner way so that there is no ambiguity in your case, since it is difficult to maintain, qualification, etc. for those people.
Just a comment aside, the fact is you hardly get any response from the FCRA department. It takes a year to get response, frankly speaking.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But this is, I think, explicitly mentioned that, if you feel it's going to go definitely beyond 20%, then they themselves have written that, you should write to us and we can seek prior approval.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not, what I would say is get in touch with your chartered accountant or somebody, who would then be able to get in touch with the MHA. They have borderline numbers, they have numbers of direct people there, they have even email IDs where you can constantly keep emailing them, you will get a response. In our experience, everybody that we've written for, we get a response if you do constant follow-ups.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ritu. Thank you, Ravi, for the informative session. That was really a learning. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for taking out time.
Sorry, 1 second. Namita, I think we yet have a few questions.
Okay.
Let us take them. We can, I think, continue for another 10 minutes and take any questions.
Sure.
Yeah, please. If you have questions, whether it's FCRA or the ERP, we are happy to answer them at this point.
So if anyone has questions, please ask for your mic to be unmuted, or just raise your hand so we can see you.
Yeah, I think that will be also going through the questions. So if there's something that you would like to address.
I think
Yes, Mr.
somebody
Arasu has a question.
Yeah, please.
Yes, Mr. Arasu, you can speak.
Sir, if any trustees died, you can change that and registered with the register office, or you can maintain in the minutes level.
So you have to do both. At your trust level, if you are registered under a charity commissioner or the ROC, you need to make the change at that level as well. And then only intimate to the FCRA, because they will ask for the local authority who has accepted this change and updated this change.
No,
right?
when I approach my district register office, they told me that no need to register here. You can keep it, everything, whatever changes, you have to maintain in the minutes itself.
Okay, so that means you are not. That means you are not governed by a charity commissioner, right?
No, not government. Tamil Nadu government. It is in Tamil Nadu government. They are mentioning it like that.
Yeah, so then it's great. Then you can just directly file with the ministry saying that so and so is the case, and this has been sort of taken on the minutes, and they would already know that there is no local authority there. So then it's fine. You can go ahead with this.
Okay, they are mentioned it. You have to maintain in minutes itself. In your
yes. So you can reproduce that section of the law, and that should be fine.
Okay, thank you for it.
Yes. Somebody had a question here saying we have submitted the annual report in August. Do we require to submit it again? The answer is no, you do not need to submit the annual report again if you already have submitted, unless the department gets back to you for certain level of information. I think one thing that we sort of didn't cover here was the new FC4 annual return format has a list of declarations that the chief functionary has to give. There are about 15 declarations, saying we've not committed any fraud, or we've done no sub-granting, and all these things that they have now implemented have also to be said yes to. So that's one change in the annual form, and you will find that when you're uploading it. So to be prepared for that. If you still haven't filed your annual return, it will come your way.
If there are any further questions, raise
Yeah,
your hand so that we can see you and unmute your mic. Otherwise, we will not be able to unmute it.
There was one question asked in the chat. Donations from individuals who is an Indian Indian passport holder residing abroad in foreign country is treated as local or foreign. I think we addressed this, that the currency or the location of the individual does not matter. What matters is the citizenship of that person. So because he has an Indian passport that the person holds, irrespective of the country that they're in or the currency or the bank that they're giving from, this would be considered a local source. The only thing sort of tricky here is that that person has to give a declaration that this is from their personal savings and not from any other source, which means that they have not collected it from other foreign sources or as a loan from somebody and then giving it to you, etc. This is done to sort of close the loopholes where organizations would go to foreign nationals, then have it collected with an Indian national in outside of the country and then get the money in. Right? These kind of transactions are not allowed. Hence, there would also have to be a declaration saying that this is from their personal saving or their own income that this is coming in from. So there's one question on an organization wishes to give up FCRA. Should the building constructed on own land but built with FC 20 years ago, how would MHA sort of take over such an immovable property? So unfortunately, when you are doing this, the ministry has the right to, I wouldn't say seize, but look after your assets. Still, there is like a full conveyance of your full closure of your FC accounts, and then they would direct you whether you can get access to it again or how they would dispose it off at their own.
It's going to be subjective based on their analysis.
Yeah, hello. Hello. Yeah, this is Sanjay. I asked that question, but unfortunately, see, the land belongs to the organization. So it's I mean, it's a very tricky situation here because the land belongs to us, and so what is the mechanism and how would they actually deal with this?
So that's the thing. It's like for them, whatever's been constructed, like especially like a capital asset with using the foreign contribution, they do have the authority and the rights to, look into it. So it's vested with them. That doesn't mean it's with them, but they will have to conclude and decide as to who does it belong to. So it's very case to case, and that's why there is no yes or no question. So they will inquire, they will probably sit down with you and understand, what is it being used for? Is it directly, in lines with your Indian entity and the objects for it? There is a system and a process that needs to be followed. But unfortunately, they will be the deciding factor. There's no way that we have a control if we have built something using the foreign contribution.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Do we have any other questions?
No, no other questions, at least specifically. I can't see anything different from what we've already answered. If you feel your question is missed out and you had put it in the chat, please feel free to ask now. I think we have another 2 minutes before we close.
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for taking your time out for this session. I think there's one last question which has come up just now.
Sure.
How will they decide which part of admin expenses from FC and which one from domestic? This is based on what the organization is going to record in their FC books, right? So today, if suppose it's a rent, and you stating that the entire rent amount is going to be funded by the foreign contribution, then they will decide whether the rent is the admin expense or not. If you're dividing it into 50%, then the 50% is the area that they will question whether is it program or admin. So it depends on how you're recording in your books.
Yeah, so basically based on, to be more precise, like based on where you've actually paid it out from is how they will decide whether it is from FC or domestic.
Yeah. Thanks again, Ritu and Ravi, for patiently answering all the questions.
It's been our pleasure.
Everyone, thank you again for making time for this session. I would be sending out the link for the feedback. Please do give your feedback so that we can have a better session next time. Also, the recording of this session will be shared with you, and also it would be available on danamojo's social platforms like YouTube and Facebook. Please you feel free to go back and check out if you have missed any parts. I have shared the feedback link on the chat. Please spare just 2 minutes of yours for the feedback. Everyone, and we look forward to you in our next sessions.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dhaval. Thanks, Namita.
Thanks, Ritu.
Thank you, Ravi and Ritu, for a lovely session, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.